so that we have at least the introduction to the discussion. So Khalid, thank you for that point. So I just want to repeat for the recording that we're having the discussion about our food culture project, and Khalid from Pakistan just noted that one thing that this project did not cover is differences by age in what people eat. And he noted that in his own family in Pakistan, his children eat chips and sandwiches, but they do not want to eat vegetables. And so that's an interesting point. Others who want to make a point about that, or else? Or
I'd like to. I think that even here in the United States, society has changed, and so we didn't have the choices that our young ones have today. So, nor the focus on food. So, when I was little, I had to eat my food. So it didn't matter what it was. And food was more precious, not rare, but just precious. And family gatherings were more important. And you sat down as a family and ate together. And we didn't have choice of, McDonald's or Burger King or. So what I find myself doing is when we order out, for instance, or even when I cook, my kids tend not to eat leftovers. They don't want the leftovers. So no matter how much I poke and prod them to finish what was in the refrigerator, they always want something new. That wasn't really an option for my generation here in the United States. And again, I was living at that time in New York. So I think we have allowed the importance of food to escape our children. It's disposable. There's too much of it. There's plenty of it, and it drives me crazy. My kids don't value food the way that I do. Every time I throw something out, it's like, I think it's a sin to be able to throw out food, because I have an awareness of how much food is needed in the world. And two, I was trained. We didn't throw away food. It was a waste.
I think I agree, strongly agree to what you're saying. And another thing which we forgot to mention was that this is all, we are almost in the same age, and I live here. Like half of my family is in the United States. One is in the New York, the other in the Houston, and we two brothers are here. But during when we were young, there used to be a timing for everything. Well, maybe you would agree, and others may agree. We used to have dinner. All of us would sit together and have dinner at one table.
Yes.
All right. Whereas now there is no such thing. One child is coming at 8 o'clock. He wants to have something. The other is coming at 9. He or she wants to have something. Someone wants it earlier. Whereas we still try to follow. Okay, 8 o'clock is the dinner time. 7 o'clock is the breakfast time. But now those timings even have disappeared.
So Rafaela, you shook your head. You said yes. Do you want to comment on this? This is really interesting.
I agree with.
Hi, Paul. I would like to.
I agree with
Hi.
that.
Oh, hold on, Debjani. Rafaela is talking.
I agree with Khalid that we used to share more of the foods with our entire family. And I'm also going to connect with Joseph and what he mentioned, because I think that, I'm not going to judge the poverty of different countries that I don't necessarily know much of. I think every country has levels of poverty. Even, those first world countries do have, levels of poverty. I know the poverty in my country, and coming from a country with where we do take advantage of the food, and even leftovers are going to be taken advantage of. I mean, whether it is you bring it to another member of the family or you bring it to someone you know that needs it, you know, I think it is important to regain, you know, what Joseph mentioned as, you know, our kids noticing how important food is. You know, I love the introduction in which you mentioned that food is related to economy. I mean, not only culture, economy and jobs and, you know, different aspects of the lives of our countries. And the young generations need to understand that and stop this level of waste that we are seeing. Because I do agree that the younger generations, even in my very poor country, you know, are also going towards that attitude of wastefulness that we older people do not understand.
I'd just like to, Paul, just like to add one small thing. This the variation is mainly, which I feel here in this country, in my country, is happening because the mothers are more careful about their kids' wishes and desires. Instead of a family union, whatever the kids say, mom makes it happen. So
True.
So mothers make the food happen.
yes, and spoil the kids.
And
Yeah,
it's something
I-
that we've noticed. It's something that we've noticed in, you know, during the pandemic or at the beginning of confinement. You know, we got to share with our families so much time. And we went back to food. In my house, you know, my husband started cooking, which is something that he never did.
And
Wow.
I want to add just to Rafaela, I'd like to list the relationship of food and entitlement. I think is part of should be part of that list.
Food and entitlement.
Food is, she mentioned food is related to, and I would also add food is related to entitlement.
Yeah. So the sense of I deserve food as opposed to I. It's kind of this rare versus precious thing that you contrast you made.
Yeah.
So I just want to caution everybody, if you're not talking, you should mute your audio so that we don't have interference. But I want to hear from others of you. So Rafaela, that was great. I just also remind you to mention what country you're from so that we know what perspective you're coming from. So Rafaela was coming from Ecuador. Khalid, again, is from Pakistan, and Joseph from the United States. Others who would like to contribute. Debjani and her husband. Yes. We don't hear you because you've got to unmute.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, Paul, the thing is that I was listening to that interesting issue about what you were discussing about the food and the food culture. Rather, I'm from India, and India is an agricultural country. Just like Pakistan, I heard Mr. Khalid about the food culture. I need to just, I just want to add some bit perspectives on this issue. Belonging to an agricultural country, what I have seen is that ethnocentrism is also related to the food culture. What we have seen that despite being the member of an agricultural country, we are quite absorbed in the culture of McDonald's. Where the nutritional foods in India are quite cheaper than all the fast foods that we are importing from foreign countries, from other countries. So this is a kind of infusion of cultural infusion. We can take it as neo-colonialism. It's happening because why? I think you also know that in USA also in the minorities, in the minority communities, like in the Hispanics and in the Latinos, and also in the among my African American brothers and sisters, they had a definite food culture which was quite healthy. But the ethnocentric view of the dominant majority have ruined that culture. So what we need to do is we should promote our own food cultures that is healthy, so that we can sustain and we can adapt to the other cultures. We can nourish our own culture and we can get rid of these junk foods And I think America, as an embodiment of democracy, they should be more open to the world food culture, and they should embrace more and more so that they can intake more healthier foods. And I think that will add a new perspective to the vision of food culture altogether. That I want to say.
Mm. I love your points. These guys, you guys are being really thoughtful. So I'm floored so far by your thoughts. So I'd love to hear from others as well. Ben Yavitz from, so that was Debjani's husband. I can't remember your name. I'm sorry.
This is Trina brother. Trina brother.
Okay, Trina.
So that's a complicated name.
Okay.
You can call me Trino.
Trino. Okay, very good.
Okay, I would love to contribute.
Actually, yes. So Ben Yavitz, then Agi.
Again, I'm from Chicago in the U.S. So one thing, kind of piggybacking off what a lot of people are saying. So I grew up in a family where like I would eat everything, and my brother would want to eat nothing. He had very, very picky, and I don't, sometimes that's just how it is. But like as I grew up, for big changes for me that really expanded my mind besides like liking to travel is, I learned to cook, and I think that's one of the things I promoted when I taught middle school, because I taught middle school science, and I just integrated food so kids could actually learn about what they're eating. And a lot of people, the problem is there's still a culture where people think healthy and bland together. And really that just means they don't know how to spice their food, which is definitely a problem. I come from a Jewish culture and we know how to spice our food, but a lot of cultures that don't have that as part of their culture, ethnicity, religion, they live a very much blander life, and I see that, and they're not used to it. So when I talk to parents, if you're raising your kids and you're not just saying eat this, but you're teaching them about how to feel the food, how to cook it so they enjoy it. My favorite cuisine is Asian cuisine. I love experimenting. I'll do I cooked tripe last week. I had a whole lining of a cow stomach, and I was just and I'll cook that. I love really interesting things, and I'm not afraid to experiment. And I think building that culture, because there is so much choice out there. I can go in Chicago and get any variety of store. There's a grocery store for every culture, and I want to jump into that. So I think really being able to instill that and teach in children and have them kind of taste the rainbow of food and teach them how to work with food will change that. Because as I learn to cook, I actually go out to eat less, and there are less things I will order at restaurants because I'm like, I can cook that. I can cook that better. I like mine better than that restaurant. And that's one thing that keeps expanding. So that would be, really a way to get through to children.
Great, Ben. Thank you. Agi in Nigeria. Yep, you have to unmute. We can't hear you. There you go.
Okay. Am I audible now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I would like to contribute a little about the food culture in Nigeria, which is mostly defined by
Oh, Agi, we're having a little trouble hearing.
So
Yeah. Agi, I think we're going to come back to you because the connection's not very good right now. We'll come back to you. Sorry for a moment. So others who want to contribute to this. Marvin, whose family is from China, but he's currently in the United States.
Is it better now?
Hold on, Agi, because we can't really hear you right now. Go ahead, Marvin.
Hi. What I have learned from this food culture project is those questions have made me think more about the food culture in my country. Before I see those questions, I never even think about in the food trend there. What are some of the all the food there. It's only after I see those questions I start to think deeper about my own food culture. That's one thing I do like about this project. It made me in my own culture, my own food culture from another perspective to compare it, especially when I see many other members post their own food culture in their own country. I start to compare. I can start to see the difference. I feel like I jumped out of my own box, my own culture that I have been used to so much. I take it for granted. I feel like everyone else is like this. However, in this project, it's very different. Not only very different from other countries in the world, also very different from other parts of China, because we have families from other parts of China where has very different food culture than my own cities, from my own cities. So I appreciate that. Thank you for opening my mind and my eyes.
Marvin, do you have anything to contribute from your perspective as somebody from China about these really interesting points that Joe and Khalid Debjani's husband in India, that they've been saying about kind of age differences in how people eat, and this sense of the preciousness of food. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, for my generation, we grew up still, but most of my generation grew up from a very, I wouldn't say the poor, we don't have not that much resources. For my family, when we were young, we barely have enough food to eat. So I never even wasted just one piece of rice in my whole life. I consider that's like a sin, a sin or something bad. I remember when I was very little, when I was start to eat by myself. My grandma, if I left any piece of rice in my bowl, my grandma will beat me with a stick. So I think from that beginning, I never even waste any food. But the younger generation nowadays, they like, I have some roommates right now. They are some of them are like 20 years younger than me, or not 20 years, maybe 15 years younger. Every meal actually, they have some leftovers. They put in the trash. So I think that's just after the country developed, after the family grow more wealthy, when they have more food, more resources, they tend to not cherish or not take their food too seriously.
Okay. Thank you, Marvin. That's really interesting. It's particularly interesting when you said that your grandmother, if I understand correctly, used to beat you with a stick if you left one grain of rice in your bowl.
Yes.
Agi, we want to return to you in Nigeria. Hopefully we can hear you. Go ahead and unmute.
Okay, is it clear now?
I think so, yes.
Okay, so quickly I want to talk about a food culture in my country, in Nigeria, that is mostly defined by occasions. So in Nigeria, a family may not have food for a day or two, but they are keeping their food for occasions. And so during birthdays or weddings or funerals, they usually have enough food for a lot of visitors. And so this makes everyone to really, really, really anticipate a wedding or an occasion in a certain family. And so visitors who are going for occasions always go prepared, because they know they will have to eat enough. And so many of them go with empty stomachs because they know there will be a lot of food. And then unknowingly to them, the families who they are going to celebrate with didn't eat last night and they didn't eat the day before, because they are trying to keep their food for the occasion. And so I will talk about another culture in Nigeria, about the cooking preparations, which is mostly carried out by women. So in Nigeria as a whole, there is a general culture where men do not cook or do not go to the kitchen. And so a man who goes to the kitchen is seen by his relatives and his friends as being weak. And so they usually leave the kitchen duties for the women. And it is expected that every family, every mother must raise her girl child to be able to cook. And so the cooking is a job for the women alone. And so a man who cooks in his house is seen as weak, and then his wife is usually queried. So, but Nigerians are people who love food a lot. We eat every day, even if we are not happy, we eat. Even if things are not going well, Nigerians always look for a way to eat. So this is one thing that we're really happy about.
Great, Agi. Thank you very much. That was really interesting, particularly the part about if men are in the kitchen, they're considered weak. That's really interesting. So we're coming close to 12 o'clock our time here in Washington, D.C. in the United States, and that's towards the end of our meeting. I want to perhaps give just an occasion for anybody who has a burning desire to say something, wants to contribute to the conversation, to kind of conclude the conversation. Then I'm going to finish with just a couple of final points about our what's coming next, what happens after this meeting. Anybody else want to say something about that has not spoken yet? It would be important to get from somebody that has not spoken yet. Would love to say something.
I want to say something, please.
Yes, Doha.
Okay, at first I'd like to thank you for this wonderful presentation and interesting project. Actually, I come from a family that valued nutrition. I will give you an example. When I was younger, I used to hate bananas, and my mom, in order to force me to eat banana, she hide it inside the recipe of jelly. She tries to mix the jelly with banana, and my brother used to hate vegetables, so she make a cupcake recipe with vegetables, and he took it with him at school. As for Egypt, I will give you an example about our country. It mainly follows the American standard diet from the Egyptian perspective. You can say at breakfast we usually eat cooked beans with bread, and a famous طعمية called in Egypt طعمية, which is green leafy vegetables mixed with beans and cooked in a certain way. During the dinner, the most famous dish is mahshi, which is eggplant. We put inside it rice, or aubergine inside it rice, and also peppers. This is a common recipe in Egypt. As for me, as a junior scientist, I used to apply my studies on my family, or all the people around. I usually consult them of the importance of nutrition from hormonal perspective, what to eat and what not to eat, the importance of protein, carb, and fat, and how to create or invent a recipe that match with our body in order to have a healthy lifestyle. In my family, we used to it is the house for family gathering. My mom and I usually or always pack our fridge or refrigerator with different kinds of food. So anyone visits us at any time, we bring the food, and we eat together. We mainly focus on the healthy food and unhealthy, and it is also kind of joy and happiness. Most people in Egypt eat out, and this is not good at all. And I want a group like you to help all the people around to understand the importance of healthy food, because some people suffer from insulin resistance, some people are diabetic, have high blood pressure, It is most important to understand how to eat and when to eat. As for me, I apply the intermittent fasting, and it is very important to know the windows of eating and when to eat and when not to eat in order to increase the fat burning and help our body to be nourishing and to have a happy life. That's all.
Doha, remind us what country are you living in?
I am from Egypt.
Okay.
Cairo, Egypt.
Okay, you're from Egypt. You're in Cairo. Okay. And are you a nutrition student?
I'm a molecular bioscience student in the University of Kansas. I'm supposed to start studying in last August, but I have to defer because of the coronavirus. So I will move to the United States in July or August 2021.
Okay. Well, we look forward to having you in the United States in 2021 when this pandemic is over. Well, so I need to stop the conversation, unfortunately, because I want to respect your time. But before I stop the conversation, I want to say a couple things. This has been fantastic. I really appreciated the really different viewpoints that you guys brought to this, and it speaks to the value of bringing people together across cultures, because you made me think of things that I hadn't thought of. Agi, it was really interesting to learn about food and celebration, and the fact that people, don't eat for a long time before they come to the celebrations, so that they know that they're going to get lots of food. I didn't know that, and so it's really interesting to get those perspectives. I think it's important also, right, for a more peaceful, caring world, for us to understand each other across our borders. So I want to just briefly tell you what's coming up, what happens next after this, because you might be wondering. And so I'm going to share with you a last slide in this presentation, which is what's coming next. So in this month and December, we are going to be completing the Food Culture Project. So for those of you, it's very important, if you are part of the project, you have not answered all the questions, all 6 questions, if you could go to the Facebook group and answer them as soon as possible. And by the end of this month, each of the 6 questions with photo and text that's very clear about what's in each of the photos. After that, starting this month, we're going to be doing a post survey with many of you, the 38 families that are part of the Food Culture Project. We will be contacting you, some of the volunteers that we have here on this meeting. Our interns will be contacting you to complete a post survey. In other words, a survey at the end of the project, just like we did at the beginning of the project back in April. And then if you want to introduce your families, Doha, I don't know if we've seen your family introduced. It would be great for you to introduce your family on our Facebook group as well. I think, Agi, I'm not sure if we saw your family, and there are probably others of you who could introduce your family in our Facebook group. So just post a photo of your family, your city, and your country. Identify the names of the people, in just the first names in the people in the photo, and then something interesting, if you can, about your family, whether it's history or a food practice or something like that. Okay, in December and January, we are going to be issuing those reports about the Food Culture Project, as well as about the impact of the Food Culture Project. Lorraine and John, who are on this conversation, are going to be focusing on the actual food culture part of this. And then Olivia, who has created that video for us, she will be producing those ebooks, one about the families, and then the other one about the Food Culture Project. Lastly, in February and March, we'll be announcing a new project that is intended to get us moving forward on this family diplomacy, right? The whole purpose of this initiative is to get families to connect across borders, to talk to each other in order to create a more caring world. So we will be announcing a new project next year. Okay, so with that said, I want to thank you all again for your participation in this first. This was actually the first kind of meeting we've had on a larger scale, and we look forward to seeing many of you next year in future meetings that we have online via Zoom. And that's it. So if you have any questions, you can share, you can send them to me. You can either put them in the chat or anything, or you can send me a message after this meeting. But I want to respect everybody's time and thank you for participating.
Thank you.
All right, Joseph, thank you. Rafaela, Khalid, Rafaela in Ecuador, Khalid in Pakistan, Joseph in the United States, and Agi in Nigeria, everybody, Doha in Egypt, Debjani and her husband in India, Diego and Lily and Yanira in El Salvador. It's great to see you all, as well as those of you coming from the United States. Special thanks to our interns and our volunteers who have been participating in this and helping to make this happen. All right, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good to see you all.